contradictory. So, if you're building a tight build, you're going to focus on, if possible, you're going to focus on one type of damage. If Venom Hydra wasn't so good, I'd be using Arcane Hydra to synergize with my Arcane Torrent since I get a 15% Arcane damage bonus. Um, and only because the um, the cold-blooded skill is bugged. That's the only reason I'm using this in Blizzard. Because chilling everything with Blizzard and a Scoundrel, I get a 20% on all my damage, not just what the skill reads you. So that's the only reason I'm doing that stuff. Otherwise, I'd be doing a much more synergized build in terms of elemental damage. But hopefully they'll keep this sort of same theme in terms of buffing elemental damage, but they'll actually put decent numbers to use, and that can get really interesting because you can, if possible, you could choose your weapon to have a fire, or lightning, or a cold elemental damage instead of, if you're looking at equivalent weapons when you're ready to buy, pick the one that synergizes with most of your elemental damage of choice. Some of the new legendaries, the Frosty's gloves, they bump up all your cold damage. I think what was it, like 20 something percent, 21, 20%. For some reason, I think it was a strange number, like 21. Anyway, when you start stacking benefits like that, it can get out of hand very quickly. Okay, I was going to put one of each in here. And a couple of vitality in there. And I think that does it. Alright, off to the auction house. Okay, bad things first, so let's take a look at gold find plus pickup on pants. Oh, I meant to put vitality in here. Shoot. Okay. Not a big deal, but it's like, I don't know, 3,000 in green gems. Really not a big deal, but silly mistake. So 90,000 here, but if you put in 70 vitality, generally it'll go up quite a bit. You'll notice it increased the curve of this very much, but got a couple here that are really low, unnecessarily low, so I don't have to worry about taking these gems out. I can just put them in as is. And these 100, 100, and some armor. Okay. Well worth the little auction house slot, I think. You can get a 150 for them. 100 dex and some resistance. This is something I'm really curious to see if there's any sort of value for just basically 2 affixes. Yep, surprisingly there is. So Whether these sell or not, I don't know. But these just went up 1 day, 11 hours. These have all been up for a solid 12 or 13 hours though. So I'll make a note that maybe I want to put this up for a quick 100,000 sell, but I'll save the auction house slot until I know I have it. Okay, strength, vit, and fire resist. And to do fire, I'll search for others as well. Absolutely worthless. Now if this was resist all, wow, surprising. You get a pretty decent starter belt now for under 100,000. Triple digits, and resist all. It's pretty good. Not good for me, but it's pretty good. Okay, so axe, two-hander, and we'll take a look at the numbers. Because the swing speeds can be fairly different on a two-hander, but much more tightly knit than the spread of attack speeds on one-handers. I'll search for everything together at first, but then I'll narrow it down into the specific types. So for 20,000 gold, you can already get a lifesteal, attack speed, two-hander here. It's fairly equivalent. The intellect's not doing much for anyone. So the axe is out. Let's take a look at now the one-hand monk weapon with attack speed, dex, and vit. It's too bad that the highest roll was on strength. Okay, this is a good sign. Very good sign. I don't know if these are necessarily selling, but we're at 10 million and we haven't even gotten close to the weapon DPS of this. I'm looking at triple digits for dex and vitality, and I only put in 8 on the attack speed. I have this right. One hand, fist weapon, dex, vitality, 10 million. I'm not seeing a single one of these listed as sold. So this combination of affixes maybe isn't a good idea. I'm going to look just on attack speed and see what happens. Yeah, that changes things drastically. So for 400,000 you could get something without the dex or the vitality. I certainly wouldn't be willing to pay 9 million for 100 dex and 100 vitality. Because if I had the money to be spending 8 digits on each piece of gear, then I certainly would be wanting a much better weapon that had some crit damage than this. You know, going a different route than this for the affixes. But it really does have, let's just take a look purely at the dexterity then, and then see how that changes it. So we're getting a little closer to the true value here. By going too narrow and looking at the dex, the vitality, and the attack speed, we weren't necessarily seeing the true value of the item going up to 10 million. We were just seeing the rarity of the item going up to 10 million. And there's a big difference there. So if you can take out an affix from your searches and then ballpark how much that affix would be worth to you as a buyer, you know, if I can get something like this for $1 million, would I be willing to pay another 9 million just to get 100 vitality? And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, you're essentially paying what? You're paying 900,000 for 10 vitality. You're paying 90,000 gold for 1 vitality. What's the damage? Elemental damage? It's holy. Okay. So I think this one's obviously better than these. I clearly think ours is at the 1 million mark. I just don't know if people are buying non-crit damage monk weapons. But I am going to put it up, but I'm going to put it up cheap. I have a feeling that's not going to sell. Okay, intellect, vitality, and crit chance, and then we'll scroll through looking for a good single resist. Immediately we've already got physical resist plus some life regeneration, so no go on these bracers. Now again, if this was resist all instead of fire resist like I mentioned, how much would they be? So to do that, I'll just go resist all and then scroll to find some equivalent vitality. There's half our vitality for 50,000. That's pretty close. So still under 100,000. So you really got to expect a lot out of your. I think the real problem here is the double digits on the primary stat. I think that's the real killer. If this was closer to 150, then you're looking at a much better result. Whoops. Yes, I would like 700 intellect on my bracers, please. So just putting 80 intellect on this bumps it up into the 7 digits. $250,000 for 90. $30,000 for 80. So just moving the intellect up 10. And you've, what's that? 8 times the price. Bumping up another 10. You've almost doubled. Bumping up another 10. You've got another 50%. Bumping up another 10. You've gone up 30%.